And it just feels like, David, white is one move short of picking up that e-pawn, the central pawn, and creating play. It almost feels like tactics should happen right now. Checkmating ideas is what Magnus is looking for.
Yeah, and that's why he's spending so long, Magnus. He's spending a lot of his time advantage. He's actually threatening checkmate within a couple of moves there. The Black Queen was trying to get in on the diagonals, but Vincent keeps it blocked, and Magnus, he needs something over the next few moves, and ooh,
A breath of life?
Yeah.
A breath of life?
Magnus also doesn't have a lot of time. I mean, we were focused on Keimer's clock as we should, and it's about to go under 10 seconds, but a minute is not that much more in such a complicated position.
And that gets a double question mark. That's a blunder on the board. Is Magnus aiming to get a central break in? Is that his idea? Because he is giving material back right now, which is picked up by Vincent.
Yeah, Magnus still has the advantage, but he had something very direct, very concrete. It was all about trading rooks, conquering the open file, bringing his other rook into the attack, and actually there were some very cute tricks in the future there, but Magnus, he's playing a longer style of attack here. I think he's going to trade rooks. There are still some ideas of the black light square
We've
bishop coming
seen
out.
Vincent defend resourcefully before against Magnus. I feel like I've seen this show before, deja vu. If Magnus lets this advantage slip, Keimer, one of the things that's been most impressive about him has been his ability to hold under pressure. And look at that, instantly responding with the best defensive move.
And he's such an intuitive player. I think that's been the thing that's worked out so well for him on the, in freestyle chess, is that he just kind of has a feeling for the positions, both from, the initial starting position, even to these middle and end game states.
And it's completely turned around. I mean, Keimer's a little better here. Probably we're about to see massive simplification with a ton of trades, so I don't want to overdo the advantage for Keimer. But certainly from a defensive perspective, he has seen the worst of it already, and he's almost up on the clock.
I mean, this is fascinating. We dove into what looked like an entirely lost game, and within the last minute, Keimer has completely breathed new life into this. Of course, it had to come off of the mistake of Magnus Carlsen, had to be given that opportunity.
But that's the one thing Magnus has said. Sometimes he struggles to find that knockout blow, and he tries to do it the positional way instead. But this, strategically now, is really nice for white. The white queen very active, open files galore, big pawn weakness for Magnus Carlsen that's about to fall off.
Yeah, and he just shook his head there. We see a visibly unhappy Magnus. He knows that he's on the worst end of this endgame. There are weak pawns everywhere for black. It's a little early to call this, but are we about to see a full turnaround here? Like Vincent Keimer doing what he's done before?
I think we're watching that unfold. I mean, Magnus really unhappy with his last few moves, with the decisions that he's made. He's sort of given away his own advantage, the gem and glory of his positions, those two bishops gone, and now he's stuck with all these pawn weaknesses across the board. Barely any time on the clock. The clocks are pretty much leveled out. We could see Magnus with that head shake, extremely unhappy with what's happened right now. It's Vincent on the front foot, but 20 seconds, is that going to be enough?
Most recent move got a miss. Maybe not enough time to explore that one. We can talk about it a bit later. But
I think it will be enough, because remember, they have increment. They're getting 10 seconds added back with every move. So it is 10 minutes as the base time control fans, 10 seconds every move.
And now it's Vincent who's got the extra pawn.
Yes, this is
5.
Wow. Wow. Vincent Keimer.
Does he get the dub?
He's stone cold under pressure.
Yeah, I think he gets the win, Vincent. He's never going to lose this. He can even force a draw with white at any time by giving a bunch of checks, but this is one getting checked. Commentator's curse, I said Vincent had great winning chances, but this might be the key defense.
Yeah, my concern is letting that black queen gobble up the pawn chain from the rear, right? But it looks like he's going to give him that opportunity to do so if he wants, trade off that central pawn in return.
But then it gets very messy, right? Because there's another pawn hanging, and Magnus gets his own passer going up the board. If we see these calculations play out right now, Magnus doesn't go for it. He first defends, keeps the pressure on that white pawn right now. Magnus, arguably the best ever player when it comes to these queen-pawn endgames. And I know, David, I felt it too, that Vincent, he's going to be pushing this one. But I think Magnus has found the best squares for his queen, and he holds this to a draw.
Vincent might want to just recognize that he also kind of got away with one, given how much worse he was earlier. Maybe don't push too far, because if you get in one of those weird positions where the queen does get h2 and g3, that g4 pawn is the furthest advance on the board. And who knows what can happen when you only have seconds on the clock.
Repetition?
Okay.
Yeah. That was kind of my suggested prediction here.
Magnus says yes. Will Vincent concede? You're up a pawn, but how do you keep those pawns on the board right now? I think Vincent will not find a way. Will he slide the queen back? He doesn't.
He does.
He's playing for the win.
He does.
Wow, with just 5 seconds left making that decision, that is brave.
Yeah, he's going to show some fight. You love to see it. Fireworks on display here. First round
I
of the
do
Las
love
Vegas
to see it,
Grand
James.
Slam.
I just have to say again, even if he goes on to lose, I'm so impressed with Vincent Keimer, his nerves and the fact that he doesn't have the fear of Magnus. I think some of these younger players don't have the same Magnus sort of fear that the players in Magnus's generation rightfully have, because he's been beating them forever. So I love that he's playing for the win here, even though it may come back to haunt him.
I know I've only been in the chess world for so long, but the story, to be here for the story of Vincent Keimer, at least in 2025, has been just one of the most special things for me, to watch this kid make a statement early on and then still live up to that statement in a number of ways. I mean, for such a young player, he's got so much poise, like you say. He's operating up there against the world's best, and he's not showing a single nerve.
Yeah, and what a dream run it was for him in Weissenhaus, right? Taking down Alireza, Fabiano Caruana, Magnus Carlsen on the way to becoming the champion in the first ever Grand Slam. And then just not the scoreline, but also the quality of play he showed. And this one as well, he keeps the fight going. Danny, to your point, the Magnus effect does not run through in these youngsters. We've seen it with Nordebek, with Gukesh, and perhaps taking inspiration from each other as well. But what about the position?
Yeah.
Pawns are level. Kings equally weak. I think Magnus is out of trouble here, David.
Yeah, I think he's at least out of trouble, and he might just feel that momentum is on Black's side now. If the queens ever disappear, you always have to ask yourself what happens, and the Black King may be a bit more centralized than its counterpart, ready to run in. Of course, this should now be a draw, since things are level, but this is Magnus Carlsen, and it is a queen endgame, and he has an extra minute on the clock.
So we saw Vincent shake his head there, the Magnus grimace earlier. Now Vincent returned it and is like, okay, actually maybe I pushed this a little too far.
And that's the thing, right? The psychological warfare. You knew you had a draw in hand. You could have just repeated and bailed out in that moment. And now suddenly you are on the defense. And let's point out that H-pawn that White has, which can be a long-term weakness that can come under target. I think Magnus, even though he knows objectively the position's equal and should end in a draw, he's going to push this out. He's going to make Vincent sweat in this one.
Yeah, trading off the pawns, though, with a tempo and the check on the king when that queen recaptured. Allows him now to slide up and connect those two pawns on the right-hand side of the board. So we have symmetry when it comes to the pawn positioning. And, of course, equal pieces to play with here.
And again, it should be a draw, as David said. Objectively, this position is dead equal. The computer doesn't have it wrong. Sometimes it says 50-50, and the computer is saying that, but it doesn't really highlight the dangers in the position. This should be a draw, but without time and will the nerves hold up, I'm going to bet on Vincent, because I've now seen him fool me once, whatever it is, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not actually going to bet against the kid's nerves, because he has already shown that he doesn't really have them against anybody. And it's why he's one of the few who have actually won a Grand Slam Tour event. So I think we will see a draw here.
Yeah. Magnus could even somewhat force it with king checks, right?
Yeah, I think he will. This might be the final moves of the game. Normally he loves to centralize his queens, Magnus Carlsen. He's decentralized her just to start giving some checks, and it makes sense because the Black King is a bit open, White with threats of his own here. This should now end in peace.
But he's taking his time. What do you think? Do you think it ends right here, right now, or will Magnus push for more? He hasn't made his decision just yet. He's looking for ways to keep the game going. And he goes for it.
Moment of truth.
But not yet. Okay, he's... The only way to really win these types of endgames, David, to correct me if I'm wrong, or Tanya, is the king can the king run in? Like, if you could go king f5, king e4, king f3, right? But I think if you move the king up, the queen will likely check on the light square diagonal, something like h7. But one of the things that's counterintuitive, I think, for beginner players is you try to think about keeping your king safe to the queen. But in reality, the only way to win these is to actually find a way for the king to run up the board and be a fighting piece that helps the queen do the job of winning pawns. And I just don't see a clear way for Magnus to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. He will need a helping hand. He'll need Vincent to put his queen on a bad square that doesn't allow too many checks. In the meantime, he puts everything on protected squares, Magnus Carlsen. All the black pawns protect each other. The black queen controls everything. So he's not risking anything, Magnus. He's still prolonging this game. The question is whether he can prolong it much further after all of these checks that will now ensue.
He's trying to find a way to just keep the game going. And that's the thing, right? You spoke about helping hand. And the pressure just piles up. The more that Magnus plays and finds a way to avoid a perpetual immediate repetition, which might not be easy right now, but I think another check. And Vincent's doing it from all the right squares. If Magnus can get a way to keep the game going, it's anyone's result, this one is. Magnus wants it. He doesn't just want to agree for a draw just yet. He's trying to make this happen.
And he's trying to trick him right now because I think queen a8 is the best check. This is a good example, David. I know we shouldn't do too many lines when under time pressure, but if you check on c8 and the black king comes to d5, okay, so Vincent didn't do that. He came back similarly because you actually don't want to let Magnus do exactly what David is drawing on the board. This is a subtle threat. You think the king is trying to hide from checks, but no. He's trying to trick the white queen into giving the wrong check so that the king can escape up the board and get to g2.
And that's an important square because it also controls the b5 point, the other side with which the black king could have come forward, and the central square as well. Do not trade queens. The black king would have been super active in that case. And now Vincent going again. I don't think this is over. I think there are twists and turns that lie ahead in this one.
Crazy to think there could be. The queen is still hunting that king, just looking for the right angle, the right mismove, by Magnus Carlsen that opens things up.
Vincent taking a look at Magnus there like, hey man, I got this. I know the geometry of the board. Did my geometry lesson in school. The queen is on the e file so that she can pop to e2 if you go to c4. And he's just trying to make sure the black king can't run in. But I'm with you, Tony. This is not over, especially again that even though the eval bar says it's equal, there is the possibility of a landmine check. Where you step on the landmine, you wish you could go back, but it looked the same as it was before, and it wasn't the same. You check on e8 a second time, and it's not the same thing. The king actually gets its freedom into the center.
Yeah, see, this feels weird to me. The black king has now traveled all the way from the center of the board to the left-hand side, away from, those all-important, pawn chains, those connected pawns on the right-hand side.
He's just trying to sneak in. He's trying to get to as far down the board as possible. It doesn't even matter what angle right now, as long as he somehow creeps into the white camp. And the big question is whether you can cross into the white half here without getting checked. Occasionally, you put your king on a bad square. The white pawns might be attacking pieces as well. I don't think Vincent's kind of messing this up at all. Like Danny said, yes, it's equal, but black is the one on the better side of equal. It's just whether he can transform that into more. And Magnus is going for it. He's going to try and use his king now to come in. And if the checks dry up, then black is the one with all the fun.
It's just so much harder to play these positions with the white pieces, right? Yes, you know that this is a draw, and yes, you're making it right, but you have to continue doing that for the next 20, 25 moves. For Magnus, the plan's clear. Get the king to the right side of the board. Just maneuver it around, waiting for that wrong check to happen, while it's Vincent who needs to be extremely precise with little time on the clock. And that's when the pressure adds up and you crack.
I agree with you, and the more I'm looking at it now, like Vincent is looking at the clock while looking at the board. That's usually not a good sign because he's nervous. He knows he doesn't have enough time that he would like, and he knows that he's actually closer to a landmine than he thinks. The wrong check, and that king goes c4, d4, e3, and you've got real problems. Okay. He plays king c1.
It's a classy move.
So for a first move without a check in a while, though.
And black can win a pawn here. Black can go pawn hunting with a check in the corner and to pick off a pawn, but that is super dangerous. Kind of sidelining your queen like that, and suddenly the black king will have no defenders around it. White will easily be able to give a draw by perpetual check, or maybe...
I was going to say, or checkmate the king over there. Yeah, you got to be careful.
So Magnus will not move his queen too far away from its king.
Oh, we're in Vegas. What are our bets on? A Magnus win or a Vincent hold in this one? I'll start with you, Jay.
Are you setting the lines? Do we have odds on this? That would be the first question. Or what are my odds?
We were almost close to a mate if Magnus played king c4 now. Like it doesn't quite work, but like it's very, very dangerous. The queen comes down. Okay, queen to e4. Interesting. This is good stuff because often when in doubt in these types of endgames, if you can play a subtle centralizing queen move, you just lay the groundwork for someone to give the wrong check again. You highlighted earlier, Tanya, that the queens can't be traded because black likely going to win the king upon ending. That's another reason why that kind of move is smart, is because you create crossfire check opportunities, meaning the queen in the center can block the checks that come to your king. And if you make the wrong check, that queen actually might be able to force a trade.
In these positions, it's just so much about asking questions to your opponent.
Yeah.
You keep the balance, but you just keep playing on. Every move, white needs to find a way forward, losing little critical time, and perhaps also walking in dangerous territory. Magnus, just the queen and the king combination. He does it over and over again. A centralized queen activating the king. Pressures on Vincent. It would be incredible to watch him hold this one.
That king has been on such a journey just to move 1 or 2 squares down the board in essence, but he is moving ever closer to getting into the fight.
But that time pressure's gotten very real for both players there. You see the uncomfortable shifting in their seats because this is nervous stuff here.
Oh, whoa, no,
Whoa.
Is that it? Is that the landmine check?
That's
king
the
is coming.
landmine check if he finds it. But is it king e3? I think it's king e3 to run that way, not c3.
Oh,
Magnus sees it. Yeah, we were right. The engine agrees.
Paradoxically, the only move to save Vincent a couple of moves ago was to trade queens. But that's
queens.
so difficult. So difficult when the black king was so active. That's what Magnus does. He pushes you into only move territory. And look how the white queen now, totally frozen, cutting off the black king's further advance. But now the black pawn is coming to create a checkmating net around the white king. And yeah, any queen trades now are terminal.
It's crazy. Nobody would have faulted either of these players if they had found their way to a draw, some 20 moves ago based on the position. And yet the fight from each of them, refusing to let it go to half a point apiece, but this is the situation you end up in. Now somebody is going to come out the loser on the end of that trade, and it's looking like it will be Vincent Keimer who falls down to Magnus Carlsen.
It's not totally over yet. Magnus can also blither, given he doesn't have a lot of time, and queens are very good at finding perpetuals. Check, check, check forever. But yeah, no, this is completely turned around, and Magnus is saying, hey, may not be afraid of me, kid, but this is what I've been doing for 20 years.
And how incredibly beautiful it's been to watch Magnus combine the king, the queen, with that c-pawn moving forward. Just all the forces slowly and steadily, tricking Vincent into this position. This has been the unfolding of a vintage Magnus Carlsen masterpiece in a queen-pawn endgame.
Vintage Magnus, completely agree. And yeah, I think it's actually about to get real simple here. Here he goes. H2 is falling, G3 is next, and it's not enough for Vincent.
Yeah, you can just take the pawn. The white queen can come back and give one check, but the black king will step forward. You can go no more checks because the other pawn will drop. And yeah, that's the one thing you can't do against Magnus. Give him an equal endgame where he can slowly improve, where he can test you, push you to the brink. And half a point is going to be vital, by the way, in this round robin stage. Yeah. Yes, it's 7 games, but this could be so decisive come the end.
He lures you into that endgame, lulls you into a false sense of security. Yeah. As simple moves are being made, and then you step on that landmine, and it all blows up in an instant.
Yeah. It's simple now. He's already done all the hard work.
He looks devastated, Vincent Keimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he'll play queen f3 if you check again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see resignation.
Yeah, and you can see it on him. And this reminds me of Vidit Gujrati's story from the previous tournament, right? A draw position. You're holding it for 100 moves, and then Magnus does Magnus things, and you lose that. And that really is one of the most painful experiences.
Yeah, no, that's a great callback to Paris, where time and time again we saw Vidit, midway through a round in very solid position, even winning positions at times, and it ended up slipping away to what ended up being a disappointing tournament finish for him. Of course, this is just round 1, but remember, all these players are fighting for a top 4 position within their group by the end of the day today. So you want to be kicking things off on the right foot at the very least with a draw. And now Vincent Keimer will likely find himself at the bottom of his group coming out of the first round of play.
Yeah, we can see the heart rates there. Yep. Vincent's heart rate's pretty high at 124. Magnus much lower, much more chilled now. And yeah, this is just what he does. He's been doing it for so many years now, Magnus Carlsen, since he was a kid. And wow, great start to the tournament for him, but he did it the hard way.
Yep.
I can't believe White started this endgame, this queen endgame, a pawn up, and this is the final result.
Talk about a turnaround, right? You started a game up a pawn, and now you're down 2 pawns. This is what Magnus Carlsen does. As commentators, we've been watching him as friends. David, you've been watching him do this probably in a lot of sessions that aren't even on camera, late night blitz, and then sessions that are, and like he like you said, he lulls you to sleep, waits for you to step on a landmine, and then pounces.
Yeah.
There it is.
Everyone countless times, and Magnus takes the win. Vincent had to resign there. Tough result for him.